Um, Good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for a tour. This is something that the admission office has been doing this last year, I guess last year and a half. And we're happy to have Sonal Bhatia, class of 22, is going to be our tour guide. She's here live in New Jersey, and she's, I guess it's a student ambassador. Is that the official title? And she's going to take us through the school on the official admission tour. If you have questions, please put them in the chat and I'll monitor them. And if we can, if it makes sense for us to stop, we'll stop and have address them. And if not, we can talk later. If you have stories, let's wait until the end and share those. Just keep those memories that are sparked, and we can have a conversation about special places afterward the tour. Okay, I think I've got everybody from the waiting room, but I'll keep an eye on that and we'll go ahead and start.
So, hi everyone, my name is Sonal. I am a senior this year, this fall at St. Andrews. I am one of the student ambassadors for the Cardinal Society, which as you may remember is the admissions team at St. Andrews. So typically the tour video that I'm going to be showing you is a tour that we give to new students, but we're going to try to reroute it a little bit and just see what kind of new memories we can unlock as we go through. But yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to pause, stop at any time, and we can go from there. Just a tech thing, can I just confirm if everyone can see my screen? All right, awesome, thank you. So here we go. So welcome back to St. Andrews School. This is, again, one of our most favorite places as we drive through each time, Founders Drive. To the right, you see all of the faculty houses. You see the Roach's house, which is soon to be the McGrath's house. You can see Mrs. Hansel's house on the side. And now we're going to make our way right into Founders Hall. These cars you see parked here to this day are still used for admissions guests. So this is a lot of admissions parking spaces. We're going to make our way right through and we're going to enter the admissions visitors common room. If I could take you back and you can remember your first tour. So you might have been sitting in here as well, or it might have changed at this point. I remember a couple years ago, I was in here super nervous and you could just see a bunch of student ambassadors and our tour guides and our interviewees and interviewers all just sprinting around, just trying to find the right people. But it's just a great place. Always have snacks here. So whenever you get to come back in person, make sure to try the snacks. The coffee here is actually really good. And then we make our way through. We're going to enter the English corridor. To the left here, you see the admissions office, but everything else is mostly subject to English classrooms and a few history classrooms as we tried to work around COVID this year. But right now we're going to make our way into Founders Room 17. This is where Mr. Roach often would host his English seminars. Coincidentally, this is my class from my sophomore year. Last fall before COVID was a thing, so you can see social distancing wasn't really the norm just yet. We were all having a good time sitting really close together. This was one of the largest classrooms we had. This is roughly 18 students total, which is, a pretty big number at St. Andrews. Typically, as you may remember, class size is typically anywhere between 9 to 15. Even 15 is often a stretch, but the average class size is around 12. Left and right, again, you also have more English classrooms. And again, we always have that roundtable discussion style. We keep that going. It's a tradition of St. Andrews that we'll keep going for as long as we can. I think the best part is that it fosters a lot of confidence in students because they're allowed to share their ideas with one another rather than in a very formal setting where they have to stand up or raise their hand and talk. We just have an open discussion like we would in a meeting room, perhaps. Right now, we're going to make our way into the main common room. This year, it looks more like in a dining hall setting just because of COVID protocols. Typically, we have couches here. We'll have the TV set up if there's some worldwide events going on. We have the nice carpet and a bunch of games and board games for everyone to play around in. But this is, for now, it's just a part of the dining hall. Next year, hopefully, we'll restore it. This is typically what the dining hall looked like in a non-COVID scene. This year, it's been very different. We've only had 2 people per table, and we do segments. So it's like if my dinner time's at 5:30, then my friends are going at 6. So it's really divided up. But this is typically what it looks like. Hopefully next year, if all goes well, we can come back to this. Jobs are still a thing. I am very fortunate. I am now a senior. Jobs are no longer one of my priorities. But for everyone else, jobs will still be a thing. And the best part at St. Andrews, again, is one of the traditions that persists is everyone takes responsibility at the table. Despite not having the job for the day, everyone's still really dedicated to making sure the table is cleaned. We take care of each other. We take care of the places that we live in. And we try to leave it better than we found it. Announcements, still a tradition, never going to end. This year, what we do is we just call an all-school meeting on the front lawn, and we do the announcements in that same fashion. Hopefully, we can restore to the dining hall really soon. We'll make our way down to the chapel in a little bit, but first I'm going to help you revisit the history and religious studies corridor. Here we have most of the history classes and all of the religious studies courses. Again, religious studies is still one of the mandatory classes that sophomores take. And after that, you have to take one more semester of religion. So right now we're going to walk into one of the religion electives. And again, like we talked about class size earlier, this is a really small class. This is 5 students and a teacher. This allows for them to even shift from the round table to just a smaller group in the corner of a classroom, again, in a non-COVID scene. This year, even if it's 5 students, we still try to stay as socially distanced as possible just to pursue the safety of every student and faculty member. But otherwise, yes, we have class sizes that can also just be 5 students. My smallest class at St. Andrews was roughly 7, and that was last year. So now we're making our way down to Forbes Theater. You can already hear some of the vocal students practicing. This is one of the scenes from the Winter Musical in the past. So this is when they were practicing. So you can see that is the stage on the back. And then this is one of their rehearsals that they do each afternoon. So again, a lot of the theatrical work at St. Andrews can become an afternoon activity. So this was the Winter Musical team. And this is a dress rehearsal that they did. And so as you can see, this is a tradition that's going to keep going. In COVID, we still were able to put up musicals and plays just with a lot less numbers, and we had to live stream them rather than watch them live. Or even if we had some live viewers, it was only up to like 50 just for safety reasons. At this point, you can see the stairs going upstairs. Unfortunately, in this video, we don't really go upstairs for that much of a time, but I'm sure all the guys in the room do remember your dorms are up there. They're still intact and they look exactly the same. Right now we're in the language corridor. So this is one of the Chinese classrooms. That's Miss Chu. She teaches Chinese at St. Andrews. Then we have the Spanish classrooms. Again, we have it on the level basis. So you can come in as a Spanish 1 student. You can also test into Spanish 4 or 5 just based on your level, which is great for students because we all come from very different and diverse backgrounds in terms of our education as well. So it's really easy to fit into a language space that feeds to your needs by testing in. Now we're going to make our way into the library, very quiet place, perfect place to study, even in COVID. Fortunately, this spring it was able to be reopened and we were able to study in here. During finals week, I promise you there was not a room to sit in this library. Every room was occupied, every seat was taken, and everyone was studying. Otherwise, the library is often not as full. I promise you that. But here you can also come in to check out books. We have all of our computer accesses. I'm sure the computer lab looks a bit different now, but here we have about like 5 or 6 computers that students can access, but a laptop is now a requirement at St. Andrews because a lot of our work has been digital, including our paper submissions and all the way up to, because of COVID, some Zoom classes as well. But those are the computers there now. We also have a printer access on campus across multiple buildings, but mostly during study hall, you'll see people here printing out their assignments that are due the next day. Otherwise, we're going to make our way out here to the Garth. Personally, one of my favorite places on campus. It is utterly beautiful. I heard that in the past we were able to walk on the arches. That's definitely not allowed anymore at St. Andrews. I'm a little sad about that, but well, it's the rule. This is also a great place for all the students to hang out, especially during COVID. So we typically get our lunch and we'd sit out here, enjoy the nature, spend some time with our friends. Same thing on the front lawn. It's been a great place to hang out. It's also housing 3 or 4 tents right now for classrooms and for dining. We have a lot of classes out here when the weather permits. This is again in a non-COVID scene, but even during COVID, we've had classes out here. We've had classes in tents. We've also had classes on the T-Dog, just because why not have an awesome English discussion while having the beautiful view of the pond right behind you? In that sense, again, we're still allowed to hang out in these spaces. Outdoor is the best place, especially during COVID. And I think the St. Andrews community really came to appreciate that during the pandemic, because before that, I mean, our generation specifically, a lot more on the digital side and, staying indoors, staying in the classrooms. But now we really got to appreciate the nature outside, and that was utterly incredible. The polar plunge is still a thing. I'm not sure how far back that dates to, but once a month, regardless of weather, regardless of temperature, at 7 a.m., they're going to dive into the pond. Um, Legend has that it's a preceding tradition before me, but I don't know how many daredevils we had before this. Otherwise, now we're gonna make our way into the chapel. Chapel life at St. Andrews is still prevalent. Although we cannot meet in the chapel this year, we do meet on the front lawn. We host chapel services out on the front lawn, which you can watch a bunch of live streams on YouTube of. But otherwise, chapel still meets on Wednesdays and Sundays. And most Sunday chapels are required, but then it depends on the week scheduling. So there are some Sunday services that aren't required. With Wednesday services, we meet again on Wednesdays, typically at 7. So now we have dinner before and then chapel. Typically it was the formal dinner upstairs and then we'd make our way into the chapel. Now it's just a little bit different because we all meet on the front lawn. In a non-COVID scene, this is what the chapel would look like. They're just going to transition back. So after having the great Wednesday dinner, everyone would make their way in, grab a seat. You can see Mr. Roach walking up to the front right now. And we host a lot of services. The best part of St. Andrew's Chapel services is that it's open to all students, regardless of faith, regardless of religion. And that allows everyone to feel welcome. It's more of a community gathering space as well, alongside the religious aspect to it. Now we make our way through the senior wall. I wish they slowed down a little bit more here so you could perhaps find your engravings. I'm still trying to work out a place for mine in a couple months from now because the wall is entirely filled and I want to put it in a place where I can see it when I come back for reunion. But if you can see yours, do let me know. We just had the seniors carve theirs and they got a whole fresh side of the wall to do it. So they pretty much filled up that one too. So now we might have to request an extra wall space for our grade. At this point, we are entering the school store. Great place to get school merch, school supplies, some snacks, personal hygiene. What they've done now is we get a student debit card that is issued upon arrival to St. Andrews, and your parents get monthly billing statements. So if I was buying candy every day, my parents would find out in a heartbeat, and therefore we can't really do that. But otherwise, it's also just a great place to come with your friends in between classes, just to meet with Miss Beblo. She's amazing. She runs the school store as well. These are student mailboxes. Best part of the student mailboxes is everyone's code is actually written on the mailbox to open it. And just based on the St. Andrews honor code, no one else is going to open someone's mailbox. But I've never memorized my code for any of my mailboxes. It's literally written in Sharpie up top. And I'm like, that's my code. Let me open it. And just like that. So this is college counseling offices right here. You can see the flags. Matriculation at St. Andrews keeps growing. We're sending kids off to great colleges. I'm in that college process myself. It starts in 11th grade at St. Andrews now. And as the process gets a little bit more competitive in the real world, St. Andrews keeps us really well equipped to take that on as we keep going. But it doesn't start till the 11th grade. So we let the 9th and 10th graders really adjust and adapt to St. Andrews. This is an aerial shot through drone footage of Founders Hall. And now we're going to make our way over to Amos. Amos is brand new now. Amos was newly renovated in 2019, reopened in the 2019-2020 school year. We only had it for around 3-4 months before the pandemic hit. And then we were watching our teachers virtually teach in Amos Hall. But now we're back again. It is newly renovated. I believe it was a huge project, took the whole school year of my freshman year to build. Now all of the classrooms are see-through. It's made of glass, but you can even write on the glass. So St. Andrews really believes in the whiteboarding approach, where we really collaborate on math problems, on science problems together, and you can even write on the windows. So that allows for even more whiteboard space. So pretty much all 4 walls have whiteboard space. Most of the decor in Amos is actually empty whiteboards. Right now they're empty. I promise you, during finals week, they were filled with all the chemistry notes, all the physics notes you could ever come up with in your high school career. And the classrooms were all taken, except the chem labs, of course, because there was our teachers doing experiments in there. Of course, due to COVID, we weren't able to do as many hands-on experiments in chemistry, for example, but we did watch our teachers do them. In a non-COVID team, this is how it was. So again, this is one of the larger classrooms. It's around 16 students. My chemistry class this year was 8. So you can see that the number really varies based on scheduling, but it's never more than 18. And that was definitely a huge stretch. But otherwise, you can see that the teacher here is doing experiments. So we have a lot of demonstrations like that. You definitely have to pay attention on those because they end up being on our tests. So they are fun experiments, but also noteworthy. This is a chemistry classroom. This is a physics classroom, sorry. So you can see that the collaborative work still persists, going from that round table to now these group work in the STEM fields, which really pushes for a great career space when we work on collaborating with our peers. So now we're going to make our way outside and we're going to make our way over to the field house. Field house is also a quite new addition to St. Andrews. We have the old gym, as we call it, and now the new gym. The new gym is actually our field house, and that's our only way to differentiate between the two. The new gym was newly established, I believe, in the mid-2000s, and it's where we house our new varsity basketball courts, which are also our volleyball courts in the fall. We also have an indoor track there. We have our fitness center, and we have a mini gym within. Also a great place for students and faculty to come and work out. It's usually open from like 6 a.m. in the morning up to right before study hall at night. So you can walk through. The gym is open to all St. Andrews community members. In the COVID scene, it was a little more strict. We had to actually sign up for it just for social distancing protocols. But otherwise, we also have our athletic training center with our athletic director, Al Wood. He's great for sports injuries and also for personalized workouts. He's the one who works with all students and faculty members in their journey for athletics. Again, the best part of St. Andrews Athletics is that it's very flexible. You can come in as an all-star athlete who wants to play in college, and you can also come in as a beginner athlete who just wants to learn and have a good extracurricular activity that they want to just get some good workout in. Of course, we have students that go on to college for their sports, but we also have students that just want to play on the JV level all 4 years. And either way, it's respected, it's flexible, and it allows students to really feel comfortable in athletics as well. So these are the new courts. They are utterly beautiful, amazing to watch. So these will switch into volleyball courts for the fall, and then in the winter they turn into basketball courts again. We also have our awards night here. So if you saw the live stream, it was actually in here, and the camera was at an above view, and we had all carpets established so you couldn't see the courts. This is also where the indoor track practice is, but the track meets are elsewhere in Delaware. Then this is the basketball team right here. They actually did very well last year, right before the pandemic hit. They were fourth. So they were up to semifinals in the state tournament, and then all four teams were awarded champions because the pandemic had hit. This is seen in the locker room. They look quite different than they did in the past. I know the lockers were actually in the basement before, and those still exist. They're actually used as more storage spaces now, but these are the actual locker rooms. These are the new squash courts. So we have the old squash courts in the old gym, and then these are the new ones where the varsity squash team practices, and then JV squash practices in the old courts. So squash, as you know, at St. Andrews has always been very competitive, will continue to be. It's an incredible sport, and we send our team to nationals every year, except last year because of COVID and all the athletes were really sad, but they're ready to go for next year and they're already practicing. Now we're going to actually transition our way back into the old gym. So you can see this is up to the new aspect of the field house and you make your way up. And then we also have all these photographs to the right and left. If you can try and find your class and your team photos, do let me know. But yeah, this is how we differentiate right here. So this is old gym. Right in the back was the new gym. So these are the old squash courts, like I said, for JV. We also have a bunch of offices here for advancement, I believe. And if you go all the way upstairs, you can see the dance studio. And then we make our way down and we're going to go over to the art center. There's also a small door to the right you see on the bottom, which actually takes us into a place we called Phase 5. So when Amos was being renovated, we needed a space for all the science and math classrooms to happen. They were actually some of the old locker rooms as well. They were also renovated to allow space for the science and math classrooms for 1 year. And so we called it Phase 5. But now we're back in Amos. So right now we're going to make our way to the aquatic center before we hit the art center. Swimming is still huge at St. Andrews. We send our team to states each year, except last year, of course. I believe that there used to be a swimming and diving program at St. Andrews. I believe that now it's just swimming, but the team has roughly 40 students in it, so it's huge. We have that lane 1 to 6 system, lane 6 being the most advanced, lane 1 being a little more beginner. St. Andrews has done very well. Last year, we had 2 students hit 2nd and 3rd in state overall, which was an incredible feat and achievement for them. We also just have an external scene of football this year. So just because of COVID, they had to be a little more distant. But typically in a non-COVID scene, this is how practices work. We only have a varsity football team just because of numbers. As you know, St. Andrews is only 319 or 320 students total. So it's hard having numbers for each sport. So we really just work on the numbers we have. So some years there's only a varsity sport. Other years we go up to thirds. For tennis, for example, it's up to thirds. There's a huge number of students wanting to do tennis. Same thing with crew. But then football, some years we have a JV, but most years we just stick to one varsity program. And of course, you'll always have the cheering fans. Again, regardless of whether you're playing in a thirds game or you're playing for the varsity state final, you're going to have a group of St. Andrews students all decked up in St. Andrews merch and red paint all over their faces just to cheer you on. And that's the tradition of St. Andrews that will live forever. We will always be there to support each other, regardless of our graduating class, regardless of where we are in the world. But we're always here to support other St. Andreans. So now we've made our way into the art center. This is also newly renovated. This was in 2012, I believe. So right now we're going to make our way into Engelhard Hall. This is a great place for performing arts, also a great place for school meetings. So the number of seats you see in this room right now is roughly like the exact number of students we have. So this fits everyone, and it also fits our faculty. We also have birthday traditions. We're going to sing happy birthday to all of the students of that week in there in the school meeting room. So typically on Thursdays when we have school meetings, for Arts Weekend, for Parents Weekend, all the performances do happen here, performing arts-wise. And then upstairs in the galleries where you'll see all of the visual arts. So we have dance, Dance has definitely changed a little bit. We went from just being typically just ballet to also adapting contemporary. We've also adapted multiple cultures, so it's also become a very open program in that sense. Um, all the paintings that you see in the O'Brien Art Center are actually student made, which is incredible. So they kind of make their way into the permanent collection each year. And, it just comes to show the talent of our St. Andrean artists is just utterly incredible. I have yet to take an art class at St. Andrews. I'm a very performing arts person. I do dance personally, and I still have to take a painting class before I graduate. But upstairs now we're going to make our way into the small dance studio. This is a great place for individual practice and dance. I talked about the Cameron room upstairs in the old gym, but this is also a place where we do community service. Again, community service is a huge part of St. Andrews, and we have multiple options. So this is adaptive dance, where St. Andreans help students with special needs just get comfortable on the dance floor, learn a little bit of ballet while their parents are here to watch. So again, this is just one of the many options that you have for community service. But then dance is, like I said, such an open program now that we also have flexibility in terms of when you want to dance and what program you want to be a part of. You can take it as an afternoon activity. You can take dance as a club. You can take dance as just showing up to performance day and having an idea in mind and just putting yourself out there. And that's the best part of St. Andrews, because we're so busy each day and sometimes one thing can't fit into our schedule. We'll make it work. We'll turn it into a club. We'll turn it into a personal activity and still be able to do what we need to do. So now I'm back into the art center. This is where all the visual arts happen. So again, you can see a bunch of student projects just waiting there to dry. Um, Also a great place. You can start at any level. Most students come in having a little bit of familiarity with the arts. Some start off absolutely new. And the best part is you can start off with painting one, and then you can all the way make your way up to something called being an art major. So in your senior year of St. Andrews, you can declare an art major, which is like you take an extra class dedicated with a full focus to the arts, and you have a bunch of a series of huge projects that you work on throughout the year. And then we do an art major critique in your week before graduation, where we invite the whole student body to come and view your work. So this year as well, in my senior class, we have around 18 students, I believe, that are going to be art majoring. So it's just, it's a huge program. It has a lot of students that are very interested in it. But we also have seniors that'll just be taking like a random painting class just to get started into the arts. So now we're making our way downstairs to where instrumental music is. I'm going to let you just hear it a little bit. When this video was filmed, it was in the middle of the pandemic. When our students left for spring break, we didn't think that we wouldn't be back for a little over 7 months. We thought we would be back in 2.5 weeks. And so the orchestral room, the instrumental room was kind of just left as is. All the chairs are a little scrambled all over the place, and I apologize for that. But when we came back, they were still in the same position. And so this is just what it looks like right now. You can see everyone kind of just left their books there. We're like, yeah, we'll be back in 2.5 weeks. Turns out we show up in September. And this is what the jazz band is like. So jazz is a once a week commitment. It's kind of like a club almost, and all the students meet Monday at 6. I think it's 6:40, and they just practice up to right before study hall, and then they go check in. This is the choral room. This is also this year it's been housing a couple of classes just because of COVID restrictions, but otherwise we have the a cappella group, the Knocks and Tones. We also have our chapel singing group and our other vocal group, which are the Andrians. So this is just a clip from the class of 2020, their Knocks and Tones group. And of course they weren't able to have their full performance, but they did do it virtually, which was incredible to watch. So now we're in the health center. This has also been a little newly renovated, great place when you're not feeling great. This year, it's also been our COVID housing facility in the sense that if you're not feeling well, you'll check in here and you'll stay here. It's also been a quarantine facility. Earlier in the year, if we had any fears of just like students coming in from abroad, and they needed to check in, it was a perfect safe space for them to do so. Also had all of our COVID testing here. And also, of course, the health center is what keeps us alive all the time. So now we're making our way into the boathouse. Crew is yet again a very huge integral aspect of St. Andrews. It has been around for many years, I'm sure of that. And I believe there's 8 boats that are a part of the official rowing program, but then there's a couple more. And so we have roughly 100 students in crew this year. So that's roughly 1/3 of the school. So as you can see, it's a very, very popular sport. Miss Burl is the girls' crew coach, and Mr. Porter is the boys' crew coach. This is just a practice scene right now as they're warming up for one of the crew meets. Most of the crew meets still happen at St. Andrews, so it's yet again a huge sport, and they end up doing very well. They went to Stodes this year and ended up doing really well there too. So this is organic gardening, yet another community service. So we talked about adaptive dance earlier. This is organic gardening. So typically in a non-code scene on Wednesdays, we'd only have two classes. And then afterwards, we do community service. Again, in a non-COVID scene, we'd come out to the senior center in Middletown and we'd spend some time with the seniors. We can also go to mentoring. So with elementary students, and we just partner up with them and just spend a couple 45 minutes a week and just to hang out with them. These were also great aspects of community service, which was never mandatory at St. Andrews, but more than 80% of the school participates. So now it's just a scene of residential life. So as you can see, the dorms upstairs are still the same. In a COVID scene, we do have to wear masks if we have other people in our room, but otherwise in a non-COVID scene, you can see this is Moss Dorm up here, and we were allowed to have as many people in our room in a safe space. Of course, the boys have always been wild. They're like that, but then on the girls' side, we've seen a lot more of smaller dorms, especially for the juniors. We have K, L, and M, which splits the junior girls into three different dorms. And this is a site of K dorm, which has also been newly renovated, not seen in this video. But again, something of St. Andrews that has stayed the same is the relationship between faculty and students. As faculty do live on some of our dorms, they live on campus. So they really become mentors in our life. They're not just our teachers, but they also become our coaches. They become these supporting people in our life that turns them into mentors. And this is a scene from Moss Dorm. So the Moss Common Room is still there. It's currently going under renovation this summer. So a lot of things are changing at St. Andrews, but I promise you that the culture is the same. The traditions are the same. We still do the Frosty Run. We still have the square dance, which we really missed last year because of COVID, but we're really excited to bring all that back. So typically, if I was touring an admissions family, and you might remember your tour, we're typically just walking behind a bunch of students as we're making our way into the admissions common room. We're starting to conclude the tour. This would be a great place where we could ask questions, address any concerns. But otherwise, this is how we typically run a tour. I hope I was able to unlock some memories of yours as you make your way through. But I do assure you that while physical changes are happening at St. Andrews, the culture is still alive and the traditions are too. And so, yeah, that is the end of the tour. Thank you for listening.
So we do have a question. So the age-old question. First of all, I want to say thank you so much. I mean, that was amazing, and the history that you brought in, as well as the new stuff, and also burning questions that a lot of alums have. So I don't think that's why we don't have that many. But one of the big ones: what is the official dress code at St. Andrews?
So the official dress code is a little up in the air because of COVID. As we tried to bring everyone back, we did have to relax certain rules to be able to impose other ones. We did drop the formal dress code just to pursue gender neutrality. We wanted to make sure that students feel comfortable and they don't have to conform to certain stereotypes of a formal dress code. So we established something called a classroom dress, which involves like a blouse and slacks or a polo shirt tucked in with slacks or pants. And just to, we still look very presentable. I would personally call it like a business casual. It doesn't have a very specific term to it anymore, but again, that's still under the works. And with Miss McGrath coming in, we do know that the dress code is definitely coming back to be enforced. This year, it definitely wasn't. That doesn't mean that we rolled up to class in pajamas, at least I hope so. But there was a little bit of flexibility, like wearing sneakers and stuff. But next year, as we resort to the classroom dress again, sneakers aren't allowed, kind of thing. So we'll come back to being a little bit more strict around the dress code, but it will definitely not return to that formal that it once was.
Mhm.
I do see a question that I received. Do they still offer Latin? Yeah, they do. So this video didn't include the Classics building, but now we have the old Student Center is technically now the Classics building. It offers all of the Greek and Latin classes alongside the ancient history courses. So we used to have ancient Rome as a history course. This year we had ancient Athens, which I took. I'm also a Latin student. I am going into AS Virgil next year. All of that tradition still persists. Now it's just better because we have two classrooms in the Classics building, only specific for the classical studies at St. Andrews.
Ask a couple more questions. The health center that you pointed out, when I was a student, I don't remember there being a health center at all. What did that used to be, or is that a new building that went up?
It used to be, it was faculty housing. It was the annex. And then it was renovated.
Okay.
It's at the top of the hill, back on the back driveway where the faculty live, and across from KL and M dorms.
Oh, so then where do the faculty live now?
They built more houses throughout campus. And then also a bunch of our dorms went through multiple renovations, which allowed more space to be made for faculty apartments. So we have a lot of faculty living up in Founders. We have a lot of faculty housed between KL and M dorms, which are the new junior girls dorms. And then we also have a bunch of new faculty houses across campus. Again, with the 2,200 acres, we do have lots of space. And that did allow us to house the exact amount of faculty that we needed.
And there are plans to build, I think, 2 more faculty homes. It just hasn't been determined. The county has approved the sites, but we're looking at how are the best ways for faculty to live. Should they be duplexes? Should they be, you had Will Spears, who had that beautiful house number 4 as you come down the driveway and had 3 kids. But then when the 3 kids grew up, he still had this huge house. So so that's something that's understudied. There's another question in the chat about size.
Yeah, so the question asks, at 320, the size of the student body is twice the size of what it was in the 60s. However, the size of the chapel and dining hall seem the same. How do you fit everyone in now? That's really interesting. I didn't know that it was that small before. Everyone fits. I'll tell you that. Everyone fits in. I mean, we have roughly 10 to 11 students per dining table. And in the chapel, we have roughly like 7 students per bench. And then there's also benches on the side. Maybe that's a new addition. I'm not a little too sure. And we also have some extra benches in the back. And we have a lot of seating up in the front. There's typically a tradition where the third formers do sit up front in their first year of chapel. So they sit all the way up front. So pretty much behind the altar. And I think that's probably how they house everyone. But it's just become a tradition of St. Andrews that we introduce the incoming students as to what the chapel program is like by putting them all the way up front.
So the difference is that the chapel pews, that when the 60s and when I was there in the 70s, the chapel pews were fixed and it was just the chapel. But now they're freestanding chairs to make the altar and to make smaller services as well. And then those benches on the side that used to be under the flags, those are all packed in, and there are a couple of chairs at the end of the pews as well. And then
it is packed, I'll give you that. It's very packed in there, which is why we couldn't be there for COVID. But hopefully with the vaccinations going around and I believe more than 60% of our student body is now vaccinated. Hopefully that grows over the summer. Then maybe we can come back into the chapel.
The dining hall, there are 3 rooms in the main common, or 3 tables in the main common room now.
Yeah.
Is that permanent? So is there nothing left of the common room as it was in the old days?
It might be restored depending on what COVID looks like next fall. But for now, it has been integrated into an aspect of the dining hall.
Yeah.
There were still 3 tables in the non-COVID scene, but then there were couches. So I think they're going to probably crunch the couches into the side. The piano will come back there too. But for now, we just have the 3 tables. Those 3 tables will stay, but there will not be more tables in the back, hopefully.
Wow. Amazing.
There's a question about, does everyone have to take a sport or a PE class each semester?
I believe that sports, the requirement says 2 sports for the 3rd and 4th formers, and then 1 sport for the juniors and 1 sport for the seniors at least. You do have to take an afternoon activity unless it's your senior fall, which you can take specific permission from the academic advisors and your form advisors to use that time for college apps, which some students have done. Other people, if they're more committed to the athletics, can do that. They can also do other afternoon activities, like we talked about musical theater. We talked about just being a part of the musical. You could also do the play. You can do tech crew. You could also do a community service. There's a bunch of options. But yeah, sports, I believe it's 2 sport requirement. But then dance also counts as a sport, which for me was a great hack. I'm not the most athletic person out there, but then being a part of dance kind of completed my athletic requirement in a very positive way. So the next question is, does the library still have card catalogs? Ms. P, do you want to address that a little bit?
So we don't have, I think they actually might still be on the side, but no, the way you look for a book now is on the computer. And you actually can do that remotely. Edith, you could go on the Irene DuPont Library website and see what books we still have in the library or not. Or it's very funny. I had one alum who went and actually picked one of his favorite books, went to the shelf, and the cards are still in the back. And he saw that he signed it out back in 1968, and he thought that was really great.
Right.
Yeah, I guess my grade definitely has not used the card catalogs, which is why I gave it to Miss P. We definitely, if we need a book from the library, we actually just access the digital version off the website. A little sad, I guess. I probably should walk into the library and pick out the book physically, but I've just pretty much found the online version from the library website. They've uploaded a lot of the books digitally too. So even from my dorm room, if I have a research project, I can just go on the library website and complete my project without having to walk into the library. Next question we have is the Saturday morning classes and the chapel twice weekly. Saturday morning classes did return. When I applied, they weren't a thing. So, it's just like, okay, no Saturday classes. And then here comes sophomore year. And then they said, oh, we're back to Saturday classes. So during this, we typically have Saturday classes, I believe, twice a month. But it's really been changing because of the COVID schedule. We're really trying to fit in as much as we can. This spring, we had Saturday classes almost every Saturday, except if if we have a visiting guest or we have other events like Arts Weekend, then you don't have Saturday classes. But yeah, Saturday classes did return. Not sure how many people were a fan of that. I did appreciate it at first. It kind of forced me to wake up on Saturday and do something productive. But then, of course, a Saturday sleep-in would be appreciated. Chapel twice weekly is still a thing. Yes, Wednesdays and Sundays. We also have optional Friday chapels, which are great places for reflection. And those really happen right after classes. So right before lunch begins, everyone kind of just settles in on the front lawn and we get to hear from the student body. We get to hear from our faculty members. But that chapel is, of course, optional. But the Wednesday and Sunday ones are often mandated, except based on scheduling concerns.
I'm thrilled to see that you all are offering Chinese now. What's the rundown of the languages that you all offer now? What languages are now offered at St. Andrews?
Yeah, for sure. So we have French, we have Spanish, we have Chinese, and then we have the classics of Greek and Latin.
Greek
And then,
too. Cool.
Yeah, Greek has arrived at St. Andrews. That's why we built the classics building. We kind of gave it its own space. Having just one classroom for Latin and Greek wasn't making sense because it's almost all 7 blocks of our schedule are kind of being adapted for a certain class. So then we needed 2 classrooms to be able to house that. And then hence came forth the classics building, which is a really new addition to St. Andrews.
Which is actually the old faculty garage and then student center.
We're still working on convincing them to bring us a student center. We did have one in the old gym. We had a nice huge room that was kind of dedicated to it. And then COVID came, so we had to remove everything. Hopefully we can return to that. A student center would be a great re-addition to St. Andrews. So the next question we have is, do third formers still have to do evening study hall when they arrive? Yes, of course. Evening study hall is actually for all 4 grades. It's just a little more relaxed as you're a senior. Seniors also have to do duty on dorm. So we're allowed to study off dorm as seniors. So personally, I'm in that process of trying to, I do want to be able to study in Amos Hall. I'm a very STEM person. So for me to be able to have that whiteboard space all around me while I'm trying to do work would be great. So I can actually just physically practice my work that I'm trying to do. For third formers specifically, the third form boys have to do study hall in the dining hall, and it's very enforced. Third form girls do have a little bit of more freedom. I personally really enjoyed that freedom, where we were allowed to study hall on dorm, but our doors had to be open, so it was monitored. Again, third form was really just about building all those good study habits, so then you can work into your sophomore and junior year and have these good habits built in. And now that I study on my own and that I'll be able to study on my own this fall, I do have good study habits that I know I'll be able to get my work done.
So I'll take the next one. Are the South and East dorms still there? They're physically still there. They're just not dorms. They're not cubicles. They've been renovated into rooms. They are now Hillier and Voorhees, and they're beautiful rooms. That change was made because those of you boys who lived in those cubicles knew how kind of crazy they were. Next question.
So above the boathouse, there was a senior room? I didn't know that. There's ergs in there now. It's an erg room for all the crew athletes in there. I didn't know that was a senior house or senior room.
I think that was part
It's a
of.
really nice space.
Yeah, that's cool because I walked in right before leaving and it's just filled with a bunch of ergs for all the athletes in there. They kind of just took over the whole boathouse, I guess.
I think that part of it is too is the fact that the seniors now live all instead of when in the 70s and the 80s and Jonathan, I'm not sure when you were, it might still have been when you were a student. The seniors, like A corridor, Sherwood corridor, was all the senior boys. Now the seniors live there in all the dorms with all the other forms and really have leadership roles.
I like that. Yeah, Sherwood was juniors and seniors, 3rd and 4th. Or sorry, 5th and 6th.
Makes sense.
In the 90s.
Jason, was the Green Dragon history by the time you got there?
No, I had the Green Dragon. The Green Dragon was the sewer treatment. And actually, at some point, I think by my senior year, it did go away because Bill Amos wanted to try to figure out what we could do with it. And we had a mini term course where we thought maybe we could have a aquaculture and we could grow fish for the school to eat.
God bless Bill Amos.
So, and that's sort of the same with the shack. I mean, the shack was legendary. That was the smoke shack.
Yes.
And Edith, I think that went away right after your year in 1991 when we started moving towards a smoke-free campus.
Wow, I didn't realize we were the last class to have that. Interesting.
It makes you feel older now.
Cool. I'm learning so much about the school's history just through these conversations. I didn't know we had a smoke shack.
Oh, yes.
I'm gonna see if I
Does
can
the
find
bell,
this one.
yeah, does the bell tower still chime? It does. There's a lot of rumors that it's not actually bells in there, that it's actually just a giant speaker. I don't know who to believe on that one,
It's a
but
tape. It's a tape.
oh,
Oh, it's a
that's really
tape.
sad.
There used to be a little keyboard on the altar that you could actually play the carillon itself in the tower. I mean, it was like they weren't full bells. It was like an electronic thing. But I played that back in the day. You could actually play it. It was pretty cool. No
Yeah,
longer.
so the tower still chimes. Then we have the full song that plays at 12:30 each afternoon and at 6.
Yeah, if you can, I'll do it.
I'm gonna find, I have, if I can find it for you. Yeah. Go ahead and take the next questions. I'm trying to see.
Yeah, I think that's all of the current questions that we have. But if there's any more, feel free to speak up or just enter it in the chat, whatever's more comfortable. Let's see.
Cheapen.
It's actually so cool that you just have that ability to just play on the bell tower, like play for the bell tower.
It was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have that. There's no
You
keyboard
had
in the
to do it
altar.
permission,
space.
but we got permission to do it. Yes.
And I think somebody got in trouble. Wasn't there a senior prank probably with that?
Possibly.
Not from you.
Yeah, 2 friends of mine got up there and they put a new tape on and played it.
All right, let's see.
Of course. 5:30 every day.
It's 6:30 now. Or actually 6 o'clock on the dot.
I've been trying to figure out an app or something to make this into a phone ringtone. I think you can do it individually.
They do have it on the SES Instagram. I think you can download that.
You can download it.
Yeah.
Okay, we can stop that now. Okay, so there's a question about haycock.
So definitely not just anything. There's still some restrictions on haycock. I think haycock also allows for dress shorts to be adapted, and I think we're allowed to wear style sneakers, which are like the sneakers that you can't wear in the gym. So typically our argument around sneakers has just been, if I can go to Al and if he doesn't let me run on the treadmill in these shoes, I can wear them to class. And that was kind of just our logic behind the sneakers thing. So typically white sneakers that are just like very fashionable, you can see them, they're out on the market now. Those are the ones that we'll typically wear if it's a haycock day. Haycock still doesn't allow for jeans. It's not casual dress. There's also the casual dress code, which allows you to pretty much wear like jeans and t-shirts. Haycock just kind of relaxes a little bit of the formal sense, if that makes sense. So you don't have to actually show up in like a blouse and slacks. You can, you have a little bit more flexibility around it, if that makes sense.
And you can wear sandals. And actually,
Yes.
the shorts is interesting because haycock was proposed by Arthur Haycock, who came from Bermuda. And so I think early on they were allowed to wear Bermuda shorts, and then it went away when, I think in the 70s when short shorts came out.
I think they can still wear like the like khaki shorts if it's haycock. And typically if it's like a really hot summer day, we kind of do pick up on haycock dress code. We also have something called a buffalo dress code, credited to Mr. Spears. He kind of called that on days where it was utterly freezing. It was just like a 7:45 a.m. email saying buffalo dress code. And you can pretty much wear sweatpants and like joggers and anything warm. So it was really just to like, bundle up as much as you can. Then you could be a little bit more out of dress code.
Where is the study hall now? I noticed when we went into the library, the first part of the library we went in the old days was the study hall with fixed desks on the floor. Where is study hall now?
So study hall is pretty much in your room. You have that desk in your room now. For the younger grades, they keep the doors open because faculty can walk right through. So if you're on your, if you're not like on your computer at the right time, or if you're kind of not really studying, they can kind of just like get to work.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but only for the freshman boys is it in the dining hall. Otherwise, it's all in your room.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the dining hall?
It's for the third form boys.
In the dining hall.
So yeah, they did a couple of studies right before my freshman year where they realized that third form girls were performing better. I'm not sure how true that is, but then the third form girls were performing better academically than the third form boys. So they decided to mandate that they had to do 1 full year of evening study hall. In the dining hall, and they still do that even in COVID scene. They have 2 people per table, and it's fully, like the dining hall is shut from both doors, and they study there for the full 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
The concept was that you could see what your friends were doing, and so you weren't wondering like, oh, I'll bet Tom's doing, something more fun than what I'm doing. So there's a question about jobs. Do we still have chores, sweeping every morning, blackboards?
Yeah. Jobs have kind of switched from being morning to being right as you check in at 7:45. So study hall begins at 8, but at 7:45 we check back into dorm. And at that time we really just get to cleaning. So that's a lot of just like organizing the common room, sweeping, vacuuming if you have carpets. It's also a great time to take out the trash of the common room, take out your own trash. We have room check once a week every Monday morning. So, typically Sunday night is a lot more of like that aggressive cleaning. Just make sure that you're not getting marks for not making your bed or not taking out the trash kind of thing. So jobs are still a thing, but it's just shifted from, I guess, the morning scene that you talked about to being in the evening at 7:45.
The next question is, does the farm still provide food to the school? We don't have a school farm per se. We still have school farmlands, but Gary Simendinger still is the school farmer, but does corn and soybeans and that sort of thing. We do have an organic garden that does provide some food. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my roommate Gigi actually was a part of the organic gardening team this spring, and so they really just get started, and whatever they grow, they're allowed to take back to dorm. So my roommate would actually just bring back basil, like fresh basil, fresh tomatoes back to dorm. We're like, what do we do with this? And then we'd also like walk it over to Sage because we weren't really allowed to cook on dorm this year just because of COVID. We wanted to only be able to use the microwave and the oven, but not really the stove, just for COVID protocol. So because that we get all these fresh vegetables, and I'm like, what do I do with this? And then we'd kind of just walk it over to Sage, be like, here you go. So it kind of just makes its way over to Sage dining.
So the next question is about second form. Now, second form stopped in, I believe, 1980, right after 1984, thereabouts. And part of that, the decision was that the kids were young, and also from an admissions perspective, it was really hard to, I have a cat here coming here. It was really hard for admissions, and that we might be better served taking them as 9th graders for retention.
Yeah, and then because now it's just 9th to 12, it just become that classic high school, and then 8th grade is when you apply here. So your second form, it's not really a second form. I guess you're just an 8th grader applying to St. Andrews. And then you can also apply as a new sophomore or new junior, and then new junior is the last. Typically we admit about like 5 or 6, depending on the class size at that point. But some years we don't admit any new juniors just because our class size is already full. Some years we admit a couple. This year we had a lot, but last year we only had 1, for example. So it really just depends on the class size. Do you still get restricted to on campus over the weekend if you get more than 8 marks? I didn't know that was a rule.
Marks,
Yeah.
So it was you were on bounds if you got too many marks. So can you just talk a little bit about the mark system?
Yeah, this is the system, yeah.
Oh, are you asking me or are you asking?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So for us, the mark system, it's still a thing. It still exists. You get marks if you don't check into breakfast. This year it was relaxed, which was a blessing. So 8:20 a.m. you have to check into breakfast. It's like the latest. It's from 7:45 to 8:20. If you show up at 8:21, you're getting marks. You get 2 marks for missed breakfast. And it's pretty much just to ensure that you're up and you're ready to go to class. You get 6 marks if you skip a class or you skip chapel, and you also have to come in front of the dean of students. That's a rather scary experience. I wouldn't recommend that. If you get late to class, if it's a minor lateness, I believe it's 3 marks. If it's a major lateness, it's 5. And so with the 8 marks per week, I don't know about that. I don't think that's still a thing. But if you get 20 marks, you have to do something called roadside cleanup. So they drop you off at the nearest Acme and Starbucks, which is just like roughly a mile down Silver Lake Road. And they drop you off there and you walk your way back and you're picking up trash on a Saturday morning. So whichever Saturday there's a sleep in too. So they wake you up on the sleep in Saturday to go do that. But then also, apparently we've heard that they also get Starbucks. So I'm like, so they're also getting paid pretty much to do it. So it's not as intense of a thing. But then of course, when you hit the 30 marks limit, that's when it gets a little serious. You go into residential review where you have to come in front of the dean of students and some of the administration and, just talk about why you were accumulating these marks, what we can do better. And it pretty much just puts you under a review for living at St. Andrews, and that's not a good thing.
So
How do
there's-
you work off your marks?
What?
How do you work your
Sorry?
marks off?
Work them off.
That's
I
what-
think they reset. Yeah, so they reset at the end of Thanksgiving. They reset, and they reset up to spring break, and they reset at the end of the year. So your limit is like 20 marks. Don't go over 20.
So the philosophy with the mark system, it's really, I think, Dean of Students Will Robinson, class of '97, is really that marks they're not pejorative, they're not for penalties, they're to sort of guidance and sort of to teach sloppy habits, to clean up, be prompt, be neat, that sort of thing. There's no general existence marks like we used to get, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, marks it's less of a punishment. I'll give you that. I mean, if anything, the 6 a.m. Saturday is probably a little sad, having to wake up on that one sleeping that you get, but it urges community service. So it's like if you did something that earned you 20 marks, and you're actually serving the community by cleaning up after yourself, cleaning up after other people on the road. And I think it's more of just how can we be better? So when you get marks and you just think about how can we be better. But yeah, if you got marks for missed breakfast check-in, just wake up earlier the next day. That was the biggest reason I earned marks. That if I showed up at 8:21, I'm getting marks. So you had to be there at 8:20, you had to check in no matter what happened. Sometimes the faculty would be lenient, it'd be 8:24 and you'd still be allowed to check in, but that was a very rare instance. And I wouldn't tell anyone to push their luck like that.
So do students have bikes on campus?
Yep, bikes are still a thing. We also have skateboards on campus, longboards, anything that can get you to class on time. I'd push for it. I have a bike there, but I live on the junior girls dorms, which is actually a lot closer to Amos Hall and to Founders. Of course, if you're in Pelmos, you're definitely very close, so it's easier. But sometimes I can just take my bike over to Founders if I'm running too late. But otherwise, we can just walk around. But I see a bunch of students, I see teachers and faculty on skateboards too, just making their way over to class. So that's still a thing. I think that'll keep going.
I think the question was because I think, Dick, in your year, only seniors were allowed to have bikes,
Yes.
right? Sixth formers, the only ones who were
Correct.
allowed to have bikes. And
Correct.
otherwise, walk into town or
Right.
hitch a ride on the mail van.
Right.
Oh, any more questions? We're just about up to our time. Thank you so much. I learned so much. I'm so glad we recorded this because you had this wonderful historic perspective, and I'm surprised no one brought up the thing about used to be able to walk on the Garth, on the top of the Garth, until the acid rain
And
rotted.
sunbathe.
And
And
sunbathe.
sunbathe. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in my year, the sixth form guys used to sit up there when we had swim tests in the pond and watch all the new girls in their bathing suits. Well,
Just
thank-
if I can say just one thing, the difference. I remember yearning for girls, and the difference that co-ed has made. It's remarkable and a major change. I was one yearning for you guys, and I'm glad you're there.
That's great. Well, thank you all. The next, we've got some former faculty Zooms, this new format to the next thing. We're moving on and on. And Sonal, have a wonderful summer, and I'll see you next fall, hopefully in person.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
all.
Thank you.